Hey, this is Drew Sanaki with nerdmarketing.com, and I want to do a quick video tutorial on how to use Google Sheets to figure out the performance of a control group versus a test group. I call it the convoluted spreadsheet method. There's more about this at nerdmarketing.com/control-groups. And this is just a quick video walkthrough of a tutorial I have in this post. So first things first, step one, you want to export your transactions from your shopping cart from Shopify. Usually that's pretty straightforward. There's plenty about that online. Export all the transactions. And then step two, the important thing is you want to only look at activity that has happened since you sent your campaign out. So ideally, you want to look at the 90 days since the campaign occurred. So when you import your orders into Google Sheets, you just want to kind of sort by the order date and then delete everything that happened before you sent out your campaign. Obviously, this is just because you don't care about anything that happened before the campaign. You care about how the campaign impacted activity orders. Let's see, step three, you only want to look at customers in your test group or your control group. So obviously if you've exported all of your orders from your shopping cart, you're going to get everybody, not just your control and your test group. You're going to get all your orders. What we want to look at is only the performance of the customers that got your offer in your test group and then the control group. And the way you do that is ideally you have exported your lists of your test group and your email lists of your control group from your email software. Put all that in one tab. I do it this way. I kind of put all my emails and whether they were in the test or control group in a second column. So two columns, one for email and one for the group. And then you want to sort that by email address, descending, right? So it looks something like this. It'd be a lot bigger than this probably. And then you want to make sure that we delete out any order rows from your orders export for which the customers are not in either the control or the test group. And to do that, we use Google Sheets VLOOKUP function. And what a VLOOKUP does is you tell it to basically, hey, I want you to look up the value in column B in this tab. If it exists, pull out what group it's in. If it does not exist, leave it blank. You run that. You run something like this, and you're going to see you can create this group column in your orders table, which is either test or control if they were in the control group, or blank if they were in neither. And what we want to do is we can filter by blanks or whatever. You can just basically delete out the lines for which they are neither in the test or control group. So now what we're looking at in the orders export tab is all the order rows for anyone who is in either my control or my test group and anyone who has purchased since the date that I sent out my test. Right? I hope that's clear for everybody. So go back in here. Step four is just a joke, dumb joke. Try to keep things interesting. Step five, delete out the rows where the group is blank. I did that. Step six, add a margin dollars column. So I like to add another column in here for margin dollars. That's the absolute dollars. Usually I set that to something like the total of the order divided in half. That gives me a rough estimate of gross margin. You take the cost of the product out of there. It's going to be different for every business, but so it's roughly the subtotal divided by half. And then I also want to subtract out any discounts that I've given in that order. And that's really important because what we're doing here is usually in some of these tests and these campaigns, we send out coupons, we send out discounts. We got to take those into account when we calculate our our profits or our margins here. So as best you can from your order table, make a quick back of the envelope calculation of what your margin is, inclusive of any discounts. And that's step 6. Step 7. Now the goal is to get the total profits per group, per customer in each group. What we've done here in our order table is we've got the total profits or the total margin for each line item, for each order, usually order. We want to sum that up and group it by either test or control. And if you've never used a pivot table, that's what pivot tables do. It's under data pivot table. So you usually would select your whole orders export table, go to data pivot table, and it's going to create some kind of weird looking thing like this, right? Where you configure it on the right hand side and you add rows. You basically tell it, what are we going to group by? We're going to group by the group. So I've added a field. That field is my my group, my test group. And what that does is create basically two rows here, one for control and one for test, or any other number of values you have in that column. But in this case, it's control or test. And then what values do I want to show for the control and the test? Basically, I want to show 2 things. I want to show the sum of all the margin. So I add a field under values and I select summarize the margin dollars. So it's going to sum up all the margin dollars. We do not want to sum up the unique number of customers in each group. We want to count those. So there's a nice function here called count unique. Don't just count, because you might have some duplicate order. You might have some repeat orders from customers. You want to count unique. What we're trying to get at here is just the total number of human bodies in your control and your test group. And why do we want to sum up the margin? And why do we want to count up the unique customers? Well, because what we're after is the total dollars of margin or dollars of profit per customer per group. And so that's just this number on top of this number. And that gives us the total dollars per customer per group for the control group and the test group. And I go back to my, that's basically step 8. And step 9 here is to find the lift. For most tests, the test group does better than the control. In this case, probably a bad example because they're roughly the same. The control and the test group performed about the same. In this case, I probably wouldn't even run this test, because why? Why would you want to do that if the control group performs at about the same level? And so that, in summary, is what I call the convoluted spreadsheet method of measuring a test group versus a control group. Hope it helped. If you have any questions, please go to the article at nerdmarketing.com/control groups and ask me any questions. Thanks.